It is March. It is a gorgeous day. I believe it is 31, 32 degrees, which is fabulous for around here. The wind is unfortunately kind of picking up, but we've got sunshine. It's fabulous, and I am thinking ahead towards this growing season and some goals that I have, and thought I'd kind of share them with you. I'm Kelsey from roughandtumblefarmhouse.com, where every single week I share content about farming, family food, and fortitude here on our 5-acre homestead in northern Minnesota. So this time of year, I see a lot of people that live in more southern climates are already starting their seeds, and around here a lot of people are kidding and lambing and that sort of thing, even though it's still pretty wintry. So we're really, our last frost date is May 15th, so we are quite a ways still from actual spring and summer. March tends to be a really snowy month. Right now it's beautiful out. It's going to be, later on this week, the high is going to be like 5 above. That's Fahrenheit, which isn't super toasty, so. But already I'm thinking about spring and kind of making plans for this coming year and setting some goals. And so I thought if I put it out into the wide world of the internet, then maybe I'll be more likely to actually follow through and get some stuff done. So let's kind of take a little walk around our homestead. I have Louisa here who went out for a walk and she just completely fell asleep. She was supposed to be enjoying one of her very first outside days and actually getting in the weather, and the poor thing just squinted the whole time and then fell asleep in about a minute and a half. So she's coming with us, hope you don't mind, and we'll just kind of take a look at the state of the homestead, the state of all the snow, and talk about some hopes and goals for this season of 2022. So let's start up by the house. There, if you follow my channel before, you know that I have some perennials planted, and I'm gonna actually buy perennials this year. I really want to focus on having a really good stand of nectar and pollen for our native pollinators all the way through the season. So I'm gonna put some perennials there, actually put down maybe a little bit of mulch, clean it up so it's not just perennials thunked down in grass. Over here, this is also something you probably recognize. This is my hay sleigh and also my pallet goat shelter. You can get kind of an idea of how much snow we have, especially down there. It's kind of built up in that area. So all this fence, which is barely fence, that's kind of a generous term, is all going to come down, and we are going to re-fence this section. So this is going to be kind of our 3-season paddock. As you can see, this isn't really a good suitable spot to have goats in the wintertime. Also, we don't have electricity or a way to get electricity here for heated water. So this kind of front area is just going to be a pen for goats that we need, maybe moms and babies or things like that in the summertime, spring, fall, that sort of thing. This area used to be where we kept our pigs up in here, but we decided that we are just not going to do pigs until we have a trailer, because transporting them and getting a trailer is just, it's such a pain when it comes time to take them in to be processed. So this area over here is also going to be fenced, kind of long and narrow, and then we are going to cut a hole in the side of our shop over there, and this will be where our bucks are going to live pretty much full time when they're not hanging out with the ladies. So it's not a huge fencing project, but certainly at least a solid day to get done. The little red barn is one of my most favorite pieces of the property. It's got kind of a little shed area over here. This is a little workshop attached to it that I'm going to be turning into a more tidy garden shed, and also a place to store beekeeping supplies. More on that shortly. Up here for this winter we have had living. You can see the snow has made it impossible to keep my door functioning properly. And there you can see our bunny Sven. He is actually going to be going to a new home in the next couple of days here. Sven was my husband's project, and he wanted to get into Flemish Giants, into raising rabbits, but that was before he got his new job, where he's traveling quite a bit and just really does not have time, unfortunately, to really do any farm enterprises whatsoever. And so Sven is going to be going about a mile as the crow flies to our friend and neighbor's house, and she's been wanting to get into rabbits for a while, so we know where he's going. It's kind of an open adoption situation. We can go visit him if we want to. So this little barn I'm actually going to be kind of outfitting to be a little kidding shed for next year, so we're talking 2023, because I otherwise breed my goats pretty late for late kidding, just because it's flippin' freezing here in Minnesota, and I just really don't have facilities that I can keep really snug for babies born earlier in the year. But I think with this little barn, I'd be able to keep it. It's a much smaller space. I can do a heat lamp in there, put a little kid warmer in there, and it's going to be a lot more snug than our big, airy, open pole shed. So that's exciting that I will be able to kid maybe more like March, early April, as opposed to more like late April and May. Believe it or not, there is a garden in there and raised beds, and man, the snow that drifts in there, it is definitely higher than my waist in some spots. It's just wild. That's where the garden is. I'm not really making any serious changes to the garden this year. I am going to add a raspberry patch, possibly over kind of on the outside of the fence between the garden gate and the pasture fence. My daughter absolutely loves raspberries, and I do too, to be honest. So I'm thinking about just getting some canes and starting a little patch over there. But otherwise, not much is going to be happening with the garden in terms of expansion. I'll probably keep it just about the same size. On the list of to-dos is burn this giant wood pile that my husband decided to put here for whatever reason. So we'll get that burned. And then on the other side of this little red barn is actually where I'm planning on putting 2 colonies of bees. Not this coming year, unfortunately, because getting started in beekeeping is very expensive. Now, I'm right now taking a beekeeping in northern climates class through the University of Minnesota, which is an excellent class. If you live in colder climates, want to do beekeeping, I can't recommend it enough. It's not crazy expensive. It's a really great class, and it's all online right now. But last year, hay prices were so insane. I was wanting to get bees this year, but we are still paying our hay off basically on kind of a monthly basis. And so investing in $1,500 of beekeeping equipment is really not a possibility for this year, unfortunately, but I'm gonna start tucking away a little bit of cash, and then hopefully for 2023, I can get my first colonies. So our poor little ramshackle chicken coop. This is the summer, by hook or by crook, that I'm going to finish fixing up our chicken coop. As you can see, we still have one newer window to install. Still need to get the paper off the windows, for heaven's sakes. And I also want to sand the whole sucker down, replace some of the bad wood boards that need replacing, and paint it. And if I'm really lucky, I would love to put some cute little flower boxes under the windows and put some really pretty flowers there, because this coop, I love this building. My husband complains about it all the time, but it's really solid and has a ton of potential to just look beautiful. And it's just a matter of having the time. So maybe kind of Amish barn raising style. I want to have some family come out and help me work on the coop over the course of a weekend and just really spruce it up. I don't think it's going to take long. I need the time and someone to hold my children and keep them from running into the road. All right, let's talk animals. So in terms of cows, some of you may know if you follow me on Instagram that I did sell Juneberry's 3-year-old and her calf. So I sold a cow-calf pair. So I have Juneberry and this one up here towards the front. That is Butterscotch, her calf from last year. Unfortunately, Juneberry is not bred, which in some ways might be a positive because there's so much to handle, including this little cutie pie in there. Can you see her? Not really, but oh, there she is. She knows I'm talking about her. So for the cows, I'm going to work on getting them bred a lot earlier in the year, probably anytime July to August. I'm going to start trying to get both of them bred because Butterscotch will be over a year and it'll be time for breeding. The goat gang over there isn't really changing much. 2 of my girls should hopefully be kidding this year. And then I have a wether in there and then 2 dolings who, one just turned a year and the other will be a year in May. So not a lot happening on the goat front. We are, however, getting a new buck or a buckling in a couple months here. I'm going to be adding a Nigerian dwarf buck to the mix. So we have a registered Nubian buck and we have registered Nubian does, and so I've just been breeding Nubians, and they actually did really well this winter, these Nubians. A lot of people think that you can't do Nubians in cold climates, but all these girls put on pretty decent coats. They manage pretty well in the cooler temperatures. Even right now, they found a nice spot just out of the wind. Nobody's shivering, everybody looks fine. They're just chewing their cud hanging out. So but I am interested really in breeding a really good goat for the homestead. So I'm looking for some goats that have decent milk output, put on a good winter coat, handle parasites really well, and are good moms. So all those things, you might have a little less milk production in order to get some really good winter coats or things like that. So, you can't have everything, unfortunately, when it comes to an animal. Maybe you can, but I haven't personally seen it. So I'm going to try mixing in Nigerian dwarf to raise then mini Nubians, which is exciting too. There aren't a lot of mini Nubians available around here. I've been keeping an eye out. So that might be a nice little income for our homestead too, raising kind of a unique animal for this part of the world. And we'll see too how it does in terms of just making them a little bit more winter hardy. So that'll be exciting. We'll see. He's gonna be pretty little when he comes. We're getting him with a wether because they're so cute and so small. So I don't think he's gonna be tall enough to do any jobs this spring, but hopefully in the fall. I have one doeling here whose father I have. He's my buck, my Nubian buck. So obviously she can't be bred to him, so she will be bred to the Nigerian. So then we should have our first mini Nubians for next year. As far as the chickens in the coop go, I should bounce back to them. Every year we always get probably a dozen more birds, or whatever the minimum is to get free shipping, maybe 15 birds, just because we always lose some from predation. When it's really, really cold, we might have some weaker birds that just can't handle it. If it gets super duper hot in the summer, we might have some birds that go. And we always make sure our birds, they've got shelter and food and water and everything, but sometimes they just still don't quite make it through. So we are going to be getting some new chickens this year. I think I picked, let's see, 4 maybe different varieties, and then got 3 of each, or 5 different varieties and 3 of each, just to try some new birds out. Otherwise, right now I mostly have Arcanas and my husband's Polish, and then we've got some guineas. With the guineas, I am also planning on buying an incubator and hatching out some guinea eggs, hopefully, because the Keats from guineas, they sell pretty well around here. And so that's kind of a low, low resource thing that I could do just to try and generate a little bit of income for our farm, because the guineas, aside from being loud, don't really do a whole lot for us. So I'm looking for a way that they can kind of contribute to the farm in some way. So nothing fancy on the chickens. I would like to do broilers at some point, but to be honest, if we just get those few things done, the fencing, we have some more fencing repairs we have to do. If you watch my Finally Some Good Fence videos from a while back, we still have kind of 2 stretches to do in our front pasture and a couple gates to replace. So maybe that sounds like a lot, or doesn't sound like a lot, I guess, depending on you and kind of your projects that you get into. But if I can get those things done this year, I'll feel pretty good. And then we'll kind of go on from there. So hopefully I'm not being too ambitious. I do have now, by the time summer rolls around, I'll have a 2 3/4-year-old, and I'll have a 6-7 month old as well. So I have to be realistic about what I can actually do here. So we'll see. All right, so that's what we're going to be working on. I'm hoping it's not too ambitious. We'll see what I can get done with my girls, and hopefully we have a good year where we're not trying to add anything. We are just trying to improve and fortify and make things work better. Oh, I forgot, one other goal for the chicken coop is I'm going to be adding an automatic chicken coop door, which is going to be, it's just going to be awesome. So I'm really excited. Maybe I'll even add 2. Who knows? Maybe we'll get wild and add 2 coop doors. But that is another goal this year. I'm hoping once the snow is away from the coop and we can actually get to the chicken coop doors, I want to get that done actually fairly early this spring. So that way, at the end of the day, after I finally get the girls in bed and I just want to sit down and have a glass of wine and watch Netflix, I don't have to go out and close the chickens. As you can see, I've got a little one headed my way, and this one's starting to stir, so I had better get going. But keep me accountable to these goals, and thanks for coming along, and we'll see you next week for more adventures in farming, family, food, and fortitude here on our Rough and Tumble farmhouse.